Good morning. Bright and early this morning. Some of you are cranky for some reason, and so I'll try to get right to the point, make this perhaps a little shorter and sweeter. Someone said daylight savings time is the practice of adjusting your clocks by 1 hour in order to make it easier for farmers in 1918 to tend their crops. That may well be. There's a movement afoot to maybe do away with that, and I wouldn't mind personally, but be that as it may, it is what it is. Sometimes I wonder if the Bible had read differently, if the script of what happened historically had turned out fundamentally differently than the script that we read. The Israelites miraculously are delivered from Egypt and they encamp at the foot of Mount Sinai for 11 or so months, almost a year. And then the cloud rises from the tabernacle. They abandon camp and begin the march toward the land of promise. It takes them perhaps only a few weeks to get from the base of Sinai to Kadesh in the wilderness of Paran. And they're on the verge of taking the land of promise just a few weeks later. What if the Bible had read that they send 12 spies, one from each tribe, and they all come back with a favorable report? This is a good land, a land of milk and honey, and there are going to be some challenges, to be sure. But we serve an amazing God, and He's given us so much proof that no order is too tall for Him. And we can do this. And as a unified whole, the congregation musters the troops and marches right in and takes the land. But that's not quite how it happened, is it? Detours on the way to the promised land. The 12 spies bring back a mixed report. Numbers 13, beginning with verse 25. At the end of 40 years, they returned from spying out the land, and they came to Moses and Aaron and to all the congregation of the people of Israel in the wilderness of Paran at Kadesh. They brought back word to them and to all the congregation and showed them the fruit of the land. And they told him, "We came to the land to which you sent us. It flows with milk and honey, and this is its fruit. However, the people who dwell in the land are strong, and the cities are fortified and very large. And besides, we saw the descendants of Anak there. The Amalekites dwell in the land of Negeb. The Hittites, the Jebusites, and the Amorites dwell in the hill country. And the Canaanites dwell by the sea and along the Jordan." But Caleb quieted the people before Moses and said, "Let us go up at once and occupy it, for we are well able to overcome it." Then the men who had gone up with him said, "We are not able to go up against the people, for they are stronger than we." So they brought to the people of Israel a bad report of the land that they had spied out, saying, "The land, though through which we have gone to spy it out, is a land that devours its inhabitants, and all the people that we saw in it are of great height. And there we saw the Nephilim, the sons of Anak, who come from the Nephilim. And we seem to ourselves like grasshoppers. And so we seem to them. It seems like there are just no straight shots in life, are there? Life is full of ups and downs. It's full of peaks and valleys. What if we went from the womb to the tomb in short order and just were able to go straight to heaven? But you know that's not how it works. And in between womb and tomb, there are many, many challenges. Our faith soars, our faith is weak. We seem to be very close to God at times. We seem to be very far away from Him at other times. We reach pinnacles of godliness and we succumb to the depths of the most despicable shame. It's not a straight path. It's like a minefield with ups and downs, peaks and valleys. And here we have a mixed report. It's a land flowing with milk and honey, and yet there are strong people in fortified cities. And so you have a cost-benefit analysis based on that report. Caleb's analysis is, let us go up at once, for we are well able to overcome it. And almost the exact opposite of that is that of the 10 other spies. We are not able, for they are stronger than we. We seemed like grasshoppers to them, and we appeared like grasshoppers to them. They're much taller than we are. Their cities are fortified, and we're not able to do this. I want you to think about that for a moment. I want to make this as practical as I possibly can. Faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. Hebrews 11, verse 1. Jesus says in Luke 17, verse 6, if you have faith as a mustard seed, if you had faith as a mustard seed, you'd be able to say this sycamore tree, be uprooted and planted into the sea, and it would obey you. Paul speaks of faith as we approach God in Ephesians 3, 20 and 21. That our faith is in a God who can do exceeding abundantly beyond all that we ask or think, according to the power that works within us. Would Jesus say to us, in light of all of that and the track record that God displays before us in page after page after page of human history, biblical history, and scripture, that he would have to pull us up as Jesus pulled up Peter? Oh, you of little faith, why did you doubt? It's easy to express strong faith in the abstract. It's easy to express strong faith here. But when your faith is really tested, when you're on the field of battle, when you're a grasshopper among giants who are opponents, when the concrete realities of life slap you in the face, does your faith survive intact or does it just evaporate? Do you succumb to worldly pragmatism? Yeah, faith in God is fine, but you have to live in the real world. And so you compare your giants with yourself. Whose doctrine is that? Caleb's or the 10 spies? Caleb was comparing the giants to his God. How big is your God? When the challenges of life smack us, that's when you're able to evaluate how great your faith really is. We are able or we are not able. That is the question. Which narrative do the people believe? It's the narrative of the 10 spies, the narrative of the majority. And as a consequence, the people themselves reflect a profound lack of faith. Chapter 14. Then all the congregation raised a loud cry, and the people wept that night. And all the people of Israel grumbled against Moses and Aaron. The whole congregation said to them, "Would that we had died in the land of Egypt, or would that we had died in this wilderness. Why is the Lord bringing us into this land to fall by the sword? Our wives and our little ones will become a prey. Would it not be better for us to go back to Egypt?" And they said to one another, "Let us choose a leader and go back to Egypt." And then Moses and Aaron fell on their faces before all the assembly of the congregation of the people of Israel. And Joshua, the son of Nun, and Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, who were among those who had spied out the land, tore their clothes and said to all the congregation of the people of Israel, "The land which we passed through to spy out is an exceedingly good land. If the Lord delights in us, he will bring us into the land and give it to us, a land that flows with milk and honey. Only do not rebel against the Lord and do not fear the people of the land, for they are bread for us. Their protection is removed from them, and the Lord is with us. Do not fear them." Then all the congregation said to stone them with stones. Profound lack of faith, combined with griping and complaining and murmuring. And this isn't the first time that occurs, it's a regular occurrence. Had they forgotten what God had done for them? Where did this spiritual amnesia come from? Spiritual Alzheimer's disease is setting in. It's not like God doesn't have a track record, a recent track record of doing the incredible time and time and time again before their very eyes. But isn't that like us too? God blesses us and blesses us and blesses us, and then we just forget everything. They even propose an alternative plan, Plan B. Let us choose a leader and go back to Egypt. And that's brilliant. Not. And when they hear a narrative that they don't want to hear, they take up stones against Joshua and Caleb, who are speaking the truth to them. Add insult to injury. Caleb and Joshua are pleading in vain. But sometimes that's what happens. You have a minority of people of God who are speaking the truth, and a majority of the people of God who should know better, who defer to the ways of this wicked world. Blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor stands in the way of sinners, nor sits in the seat of scoffers. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and on his law he meditates day and night. Is that what these people were doing when they took up stones against Joshua and Caleb? No, they were latching on to the counsel of the ungodly. And Moses has to intercede because God intervenes. You have a lynch mob here who want to stone the only two people, the only two men of age who are going to actually make it into the land of promise. The righteous man perishes, but no one takes it to heart. That's what Isaiah 57, verse 1 says. And that's one of the patterns of history. Edmund Burke said, all that is necessary for the triumph of evil is that good men do nothing. Where were all the good men standing up to this nonsense of the 10 spies and the nonsense of the nation? The glory of the Lord suddenly appears, bringing a hush to the gripers and complainers. And he proposes to annihilate the whole nation. End of verse 10. But the glory of the Lord appeared at the tent of meeting to all the people of Israel, and the Lord said to Moses, how long will this people despise me? And how long will they not believe in me, in spite of all the signs that I have done for them? I will strike them with the pestilence and disinherit them, and I will make of you a nation greater and mightier than they. And Moses could have said, that's a great idea, God, do it. But Moses didn't do that, and I believe the Lord knew that Moses wouldn't do that. Moses said to the Lord, verse 13, then the Egyptians will hear of it, for you brought up this people in your might from among them, and they will tell the inhabitants of this land, they have heard that you, O Lord, are in the midst of this people, for you, O Lord, are seen face to face. And your cloud stands over them, and you go before them in a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. Now, if you kill this people as one man, then the nations who have heard of your fame will say it is because the Lord was not able to bring this people into the land that he swore to give to them, that he has killed them in the wilderness. And now please let the power of the Lord be great as you have promised, saying, the Lord is slow to anger and abounding in steadfast love, forgiving iniquity and transgression, for he will by no means clear the guilty, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children to the third and fourth generation. Please pardon the iniquity of this people according to the greatness of your steadfast love, just as you have forgiven this people from Egypt until now. It's not the first time Moses intervened. He has a track record of doing that as well. God appears in glory, threatens to annihilate the people, and Moses becomes a defense advocate for an unworthy people, but they were his people. And he had cast his lot with them, and he genuinely loved them for all their shortcomings. This whole episode makes no sense if you view God's sovereignty as a micromanagement type of control of every detail in the universe, where everything is predetermined and there is no give and take between God and his humble servants. Will God listen to Moses' pleadings? Yes, he does, because there's an interplay between divine providence and human free choice. And I want you to write this down on your heart. God has given each of us an exalted privilege of interacting with him in this project so that we can plead with him and cause him to even change his mind. You talk about an exalted honor that he gives to human beings that he calls his own. But he's given us freedom of choice. And so he takes risks with the direction of human history. We're not a bunch of puppets on a string or robots who are pre programmed according to his whims. He invites us into his faithful service, and he gives us, his faithful servants, a give and take relationship in which we can appeal to him and even urge him to change his mind. And that's what Moses does. And again, this is not the first time he has done that. You see it in Exodus 34, other places. Does God sometimes make himself dependent upon our prayers? The answer is a resounding yes. He does so with Moses right here. And I think he knows what Moses is going to do in advance. You could even make a case that he is prodding Moses to do what Moses does. But the whole nature of providential relations with us hinges on human freedom to make choices and the inevitable consequences of those choices. Every choice has consequences. Moses makes a choice. No, God, don't annihilate these people and create a new nation out of me. There's a bigger issue at stake here, and it involves the glory of your name and your steadfast love, which is central to who you are, expressed to your people. James says in James 4 and verse 2, you have not because you do not ask. Again, if we serve a God as big as he presents himself in the Bible, who does exceeding abundantly beyond all that we ask or think, then one would expect that when we go to him in prayer, amazing things are set into motion, including sometimes the reversal of what God might otherwise be inclined to do without our prayers. So we, as the people of God, can come to him, make humble appeal, and then amazing things begin to happen. But that's not only true for us collectively, it's also true for us individually. And I really want you to think about that, because Moses is not praying with a bunch of people, he's praying alone. Can one person make a difference this big? Can you make this kind of difference when you go to the throne of grace and beg God to do what is in the eternal best interest of his plan and his people? Just think about that. What an honor it is to be in that position with God, to have his ear, to have a potential change of his heart by your pleadings with him. I don't pretend to understand it all, but I do believe it's an exalted honor that God places in us and on us to be in this position. And the amazing thing about it is God extends his mercy. He answers Moses' prayer, but with a twist. Beginning with verse 20. Then the Lord said, I have pardoned according to your word, but truly as I live, and as all the earth shall be filled with the glory of the Lord, none of the men who have seen my glory and my signs that I did in Egypt and in the wilderness, and yet have put me to the test these 10 times and have not obeyed my voice, shall see the land that I swore to give to their fathers, and none of those who despised me shall see it. But my servant Caleb, because he has a different spirit and has followed me fully, I will bring into the land into which he went, and his descendants shall possess it. Now, since the Amalekites and Canaanites dwell in the valleys, turn tomorrow and set out for the wilderness by the way to the Red Sea. And the Lord spoke to Moses and to Aaron, saying, how long shall this wicked congregation grumble against me? I have heard the grumblings of the people of Israel, in which they grumble against me. Say to them, as I live, declares the Lord, what you have said in my hearing, I will do to you. Your dead bodies shall fall in this wilderness, and of all your number listed in the census from 20 years and upward, who have grumbled against me, not one shall come into the land which I swore that I would make you dwell, except Caleb the son of Jephunneh and Joshua the son of Nun. But your little ones, who you said would become a prey, I will bring them in, and they shall know the land that you have rejected. But as for you, your dead bodies shall fall in this wilderness, and your children shall be shepherds in the wilderness 40 years, and shall suffer for your your faithlessness, until the last of your dead bodies lies in the wilderness, according to the number of days in which you spied out the land, 40 days, a year for each day. You shall bear your iniquity 40 years, and you shall know my displeasure. I, the Lord, have spoken. Surely this I will do to all this wicked congregation who are gathered together against me in this wilderness. They shall come to a full end, and they shall there die. The pardon does not come cheap. If the people are to be spared, there are lessons that must be learned. The glory of the Lord will be preserved intact. It will be acknowledged. There must be a purging. Forgiveness, yes, but consequences also. Sometimes that's how it works. We can be forgiven, but there are very painful consequences that persist in this life. In the big picture of things, we can still go to heaven, but there's a lot of pain, perhaps, that must still go around in this life. The children will take the land, the parents will die. The 10 of the 12 spies die immediately. God is making a point. And finally, there'll be a desert training school. 40 years of arduous learning must commence. The new generation must learn to trust God where the older generation had failed. There was a commercial for maintaining your automobile years and years ago, and the catch line in the commercial was you can either do it the easy way or you can do it the hard way. The idea was have your car maintained or else pay heavy consequences, much greater price if you don't have it maintained. And in this case, God is essentially saying, you could have done it the easy way. You chose the difficult way. Okay, that's the way we're going to do it. 40 years of arduous desert wilderness training school, and the Sinai Peninsula becomes a graveyard, a mass graveyard. And then all of a sudden, people have a change of heart. Amazing. Verse 39, when Moses told these words to all the people of Israel, the people mourned greatly, and they arose early in the morning and went up to the heights of the hill country, saying, here we are, here we are. We will go to the place that the Lord has promised, for we have sinned. But Moses said, why now are you transgressing the command of the Lord when you will not succeed? Do not go up, for the Lord is not among you, lest you be struck down before your enemies. For there the Amalekites and the Canaanites are facing you, and you shall fall by the sword, because you have turned back from following the Lord. The Lord will not be with you. But they presumed to go up to the heights of the hill country, although neither the ark of the covenant of the Lord nor Moses departed out of the camp. Then the Amalekites and the Canaanites who lived in that hill country came down and defeated them and pursued them even to Hormah. So after sin is finally exposed and acknowledged, the people have a change of heart, but it's too late. at least in the short term, God is not among them. They march right into the Canaan all they want. They're going to be defeated. He's not among them. But they presumed anyway and went up heedlessly. Psalm 19:13 says, "Keep back your servant from presumptuous sins. Let them not have dominion over me, so that I might be blameless and innocent of great transgression." Oh, they didn't pray that prayer. They went up presumptuously, heedlessly. How often do people try to straighten out a mess of their own making with a solution that gets them into even deeper trouble? That's one of the lessons of human history. And in every area of life, I could cite business or government or family or, you know, there's a human problem and someone proposes a human solution to address the human problem, and it just makes matters even worse. It backfires. In fact, this backfired gloriously. And the lesson here is they should have done it right the first time. They should have done it the easy way. Trusted God from the outset. So many lessons to be learned. Deuteronomy 28. If you faithfully obey the voice of the Lord your God, being careful to do all his commandments that I command you today, the Lord God will set you high above all the nations of the earth, and all these blessings shall come upon you and overtake you if you obey the voice of the Lord your God. So many other passages that we could read. But there is a sense in which one of them will metaphorically chase 10 or even 1,000 if the Lord is with them. But if the Lord is not with them, that's just reversed, isn't it? When will people ever learn? When will we ever learn? The things that were written in former times were written for our learning, that we, through the perseverance and encouragement of the scriptures, might have hope. Romans 15 in verse 4. I hope we learn the lessons of history, lest we repeat the mistakes of history. The lesson is yours if you're subject to the invitation call of Jesus Christ and need to set out on your journey to the promised land. To cross your personal Red Sea by being baptized into Jesus Christ for the remission of every sin, freeing you from the bondage of sin, and setting you on toward that journey, then there's no better time to do that than right now. There'll be ups and downs. There'll be mistakes made. There'll be a whole lot of lessons of faith learned. But if you trust in God, he will be with you every step of the way, and he will help you and guide you just as he guided the Israelites through cloud and fire until you cross the river Jordan and enter the promised land, our eternal heavenly home. We can encourage you. We want to do that right now as we all stand together and sing a song of invitation.